Because I wouldn't play frequently, I ended up tearing my ACL playing football. And then a couple of years later, while playing basketball, I tore my right ACL.
Would you say that you were at your heaviest weight-wise before you started the Couch to 5K?
I was pretty heavy at that time, just into the pandemic, and that is what probably scared me a little. I never thought of myself as a runner. I still don't think of myself as a runner. Out of the blue, I get this email from a charity I support. They say that they've got places in the London Landmarks half marathon. We've got some spaces. Would you like to take part? And I thought, okay.
So you had only a 2-month period between the time you got the email and the run.
Yes.
So in your entire training, you never actually got close to 21K.
Oh, far from it. On the day of the half marathon, everything was going smoothly. Completed 10K and my pace was pretty good. Then around the 11.5 kilometer mark, boom, I get hit with cramp in my right calf and it was terrible. And so at that stage I knew that if I continue running, it's just not working. I realized that if I had to finish, and I was going to finish, I'd have to.
I wanted to ask you about your journey. I think it's called Couch to 5K. Before I carry on any further, is that an app or is it a website? Just to be clear.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I'd say it's all of the above. It's an app. It's a program, I believe, actually. I don't know where it came from, but I was using the one which was from the BBC.
Okay.
So I think it's generally a program of running, of how you go from, say, not being able to run to eventually completing a 5K. And I think there are various protocols across the world. Different people have different schedules. So I just used one which was already embodied in an app, and that app was called Couch to 5K and it was from the BBC.
Okay, fine. So anyways, I wanted to ask you, what was happening in your life, or what were you currently doing in your life at the point when you realized that you needed to start running, or you realized that you wanted to start running?
That's an interesting one. So what kind of happened was I had a little bit of a health scare late in September, October of 2020. So that was just into the pandemic.
Okay.
And that is what probably scared me a little. And that's what was the catalyst, I'd say, that, I need to get fit. I don't think so I was quite active earlier as right through college, and way back before that I used to play a lot of sports, but I don't think I ever had fitness as this is part of my lifestyle. So at that stage, when this health scare came along, and once I was past that, which wasn't very long, it sort of
And probably the pandemic also added to the fear and the anxiety of the
very, very much so. I think it was it was a strange time for everyone at that time. So I guess a lot of things were going on. So yeah, definitely fitness was a part of it, because you could hear on the news, right? People who weren't as fit were also probably struggling a bit. So that probably added to it. So that was the catalyst behind it. Just like, okay, I need to do something, and that's probably what kickstarted the change.
Fine. So you said that you were active when you were younger in your college days and all. Till what point were you active? And before you started the Couch to 5K, how long were you inactive or not actively doing any sports or fitness anything related?
That's an interesting one. Again, let me think back. I'm just trying to remember. So I used to play football right through school, even into university and college as such. So I was playing football regularly. I used to play basketball as well, right through as well. Once I started working, that probably decreased quite a bit. It was very intermittent. I'd only play football occasionally, so I'm probably less than once a month also. And so I never maintained that fitness level. In fact, probably because I wouldn't play frequently, I ended up tearing my ACL playing football. I tore my left ACL just when I started work, while playing football. Okay, it was a work tournament as such, and so I tore my left ACL there. And then a couple of years later, while playing basketball back again in university for my business degree, I tore my right ACL playing basketball. So it's like I actually have partial tears in both, which is kind of why I've never picked up sports again, because it's a little risky, playing any sport which has a cutting movement, and that's pretty much most sports as such.
I knew about the ACL tears. So I actually thought the ACL tears were when you were in like actively playing sports on a daily basis or something. I thought that was the time where you tore your ACL. I was
No.
not aware it was during your inactive
It
period.
was during those elective periods. In fact, I don't know, maybe I was lucky I never had any problems while I used to play, but yeah, I probably should have kept playing, then I don't think these would have happened.
So would you say that you were at your heaviest weight wise before you started the couch to 5K?
Almost. I was pretty heavy at that time. I think,
What was the weight?
so I would have, so when I was in Kuwait, which is where I probably would have been my heaviest, I topped off, I think, at about 104 kilos. That's where
Okay.
I was at that time, 104. And when I started Couch to 5K, I was probably around the 95 mark. So it came down after I moved to the UK, but not through any active interventions on my part. I just guess it was just change of scenery, change of diet, and maybe a little bit more activity as such.
Would you say that one of the catalysts or one of the reasons you started was to lose weight as well, besides the health scare and wanting to focus on your health?
It's always a nice thing to be slimmer and to not be carrying extra pounds. So I would say that's always been there. But I mean, what you do is what matters, right? Thoughts and whatever you feel and whatever you're thinking doesn't make a difference if you're not taking action. So the reality is, yes, I would like to have been, have weighed less, but I wasn't doing anything about it. And definitely after that, once I got into the Couch to 5K program, yes, it was very much a conscious thing that as I go through this, I will also be, shedding some fat.
So how long did it take you to complete the Couch to 5K program to actually reach that point of 5K?
That took a long time. Most of these apps out there kind of say that you get to the Couch to 5K in about 9 to 13 weeks. Maybe I've seen a couple of apps, like the one I was following said 9 weeks. I did not do it in 9 weeks. No. It took me around 65 weeks. So that's over a year before I finally ran a 5K. And I think part of the reason was that I wasn't focused on getting through the program and, hitting that 5K mark. I was more kind of focused on doing each step well and kind of getting to a certain baseline of fitness. I don't think I was actively doing it, but as I did it, I was quite comfortable just staying in a particular week and making sure I could do the program, those bits. So when you start off on the Couch to 5K, it's all about the intervals actually. So I think the starting point was you run for about just 30 seconds or a minute, and there are quite a few periods of rest in between, and so you maybe just do a couple of intervals in the first week, and then the second week is maybe about.
So it's more like an interval training.
It is like interval training, but it's not. You're not putting in the intensity. Well, I mean, I don't know if I should say that because
You mean it's not high intensity interval training you're trying to say?
It is high intensity for you because you've been on the couch for so long,
Got
but
it.
it's
Yeah,
not really high intensity in the same sense that probably someone who's coming from the fitness world would think of it that way. It's relative to you.
Okay.
Yeah. So it is a bit more intense, but it's more about getting your body used to running for a longer period of time and kind of finding your pace and finding your rhythm. And I actually think that it's probably a good thing, because in the beginning, if you have the ability to maybe run for longer stretches, you might actually end up injuring yourself because you don't know what you're doing. If you're someone like me who's not been physically active for a long time, you're more likely to hurt something if you're getting to the a point where you're running for 5 minutes when you really body probably is struggling at the end of the 5 minutes. Maybe you're going to put a foot wrong, maybe you're going to land awkwardly. So I think if you're sticking to those intervals and you're able to run with a little bit of a better form during that time, it's probably better.
So was it always a conscious decision from the start to take each step slowly and focus on building the baseline properly, or did that happen gradually as you were doing the program?
I think it kind of happened as I went along. So there is an element of I wasn't driven to hit 5K. So in fact, throughout my running, it's never I've not been like I want to be able to do a 5K. That has been a target, but it's not the motivation, if that makes sense. So for me, it's like I'm enjoying the benefits of the process of getting there, and that destination was not really important to me. It was those benefits of getting there which was important. So I would keep that destination in mind, as when I get there, that I can move on to something else. But it's not like I was driven to get there, which is probably why I feel I could have probably done it a lot faster. I don't think I needed like over a year to get there. I'm not saying I would have done it in 2 months. No, it would have probably been still quite long. But I could have done it faster, but I just chose not to and just kept building that, base of aerobic fitness, if that makes any sense. And I think that's sort of where my thinking was at that stage.
I think that's an important part, because when you're always driven by the end goal. So for example, I think that if someone was doing the couch to 5K with the goal of getting to 5K, and the average time you're supposed to get it done is 9 weeks, and they're not able to get to that point, they end up feeling demotivated, and many of them would just leave. That's why a lot of people leave the fitness journey. But the fact that you were appreciating and enjoying the process of it rather than the goal, you were not demotivated, because you were still in the process, and in your process obviously you were seeing progress, or you were enjoying it. So I guess that's what also gave you the longevity, which I think a lot of people lose when they try to get fit and try any fitness related workout or anything.
What you just said is like quite important, and I'm just having those memories come back. So when I started running and I was looking about for information, I really felt there wasn't anything which addressed my need, apart from maybe a couple of these programs. But even these programs, they just sort of pay lip service to the fact, like, go at your own pace. They don't really translate into, your pace could be so slow that 9 weeks might actually take 9 months. I think you need that reassurance actually when you're doing it, that everyone's starting from a different point, so it's going to take a lot more time, and you got to be comfortable with that. When I started off and I looked for information, I didn't find anybody that was kind of speaking to me. Everyone, and the worst thing I feel like when you get on YouTube or when you look at a lot of these blogs out there, everyone who's pretty fit is giving information about fitness. So it kind of like, I don't feel you're the right person. Like, I want to hear from somebody who was slow like me and got there, rather than someone who's like pretty fit and it's a breeze for them to run a 5K, whereas for me it took me a really long time and I had to build it up that way. So it's just a little different.
And also I think it has a lot to do with the way the internet culture is, that if you make a headline or a title that you can get couch to 5K in 5 weeks, the shorter time frame and the bigger goal tends to get more clicks. So maybe that's why you kind of found a lot of information online that was very focused on not giving importance to your level, but rather just getting the maximum benefit. It's like when you have the car range, the company will tell you what is the range that the car gives you in ideal conditions, but in real life the ideal conditions are never fulfilled, so you're never actually going to get that range. So it's kind of like that, I feel.
That makes a lot of sense. No, I kind of get it that way. I mean, when I was starting off, I really wanted something out there which kind of spoke in the same way. So I think I did find a couple of personal posts from a couple of people who were relatively unfit. I don't recall them at this stage as to who the exact people were, so I can't mention them, but I do remember that they did emphasize that it takes a bit of time. So the bit about going slow and taking it easy, just keep showing up every day and just getting it done, sort of makes sense. And I think that's what helped me with the disappointment.
Yeah, that's right. I've noticed that in any part of life in general, like there are things that you can get motivated to do, but that motivation is going to drive you for a short amount of time, or maybe a slightly long amount of time, but it's never going to drive you all the way. It needs to be backed by actual concrete things that you enjoy or you want to achieve. So you can't be reliant on just watching a video of somebody who's went from zero to being able to run a marathon, and this that can't drive you throughout the process of you getting to go to a marathon, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot
So
of
yeah,
sense.
I think that's applicable to a lot of parts of life. But in general, do you enjoy running right now?
That's a different one. You know, I never thought of myself as a runner. I still don't think of myself as a runner. It's more like I enjoy it at times, but I don't know. Like it's not a part of my identity completely. So I wouldn't think of myself as a runner. So it's a different one. I don't know how I best frame it. So I do it.
No, but the majority of the time when you're running, do you find yourself having to mentally tell yourself that you need to run, you need to push, or is it something that you just enjoy, that you just end up like you're on cruise control?
It's a habit now. I don't even think about it at times. So unless I'm pushing myself for a goal or particular distance, like I ran a 10k, like a timed 10k was probably my first. Yeah, it was my first timed and sort of competitive 10k. At least I was taking it in that sense. But I don't need to push myself while running. It's just something that happens. In fact, most of the time, I now find that I've transitioned from I used to run and listen to music to now at times I can run and listen to a podcast at the same time and process that as well. So I'm able to kind of put it in a different space and just keep going. But I got to caveat that with this: these are easy runs. I'm not running hard. I'm just kind of getting a few miles in. I'm not really training towards a particular goal. So it's more just sort of maintenance for my fitness levels.
Yeah, you would characterize them as easy runs when you compare them to like professional athletes. But if you see the general population, the level that even the amount that you're running also, personally, even if I was to do the type of runs you do and I tried doing it with you, I couldn't keep up and I hate running. And so even for me to be able to do that much, it's a mental challenge. So to you, it might be easy now, but when you're comparing it to the professional levels, but in light of comparing it to majority of the population, I think it's still something that should not be considered as easy.
So that's a fair point. I agree with that. So I guess taking all that time in the beginning probably is paying off now because it's become a bit of a habit now.
But did you notice that at a certain point it started feeling like habitual or cruise control, and initially you had to put in the effort telling yourself mentally that I need to do this, or was it like that throughout? Maybe there is an increment in the distance, but do you feel like overall it was like that the entire process, or in the initial stages you had to push yourself?
I definitely had to push myself in the initial stages. There's no doubt about it. So during those early days, until it reached the stage where I could run a 5k without stopping for a break, I was probably pushing myself. I think it's only been, so if I try to break it down into sort of timelines, I started running at the end of 2020. So I'd say only sometime last year, say around July of last year, was when it kind of became easy to go and just knock out a 5k on a regular basis and not think about it. So I no longer think that I'm going to do 5k, like that's a regular thing. So now it's more like, how long am I going to run for and how fast am I going to run for? Am I going to get enough of exercise today? That's more of how I look at it. But prior to that, it was a challenge, and that's where the Couch to 5k sort of helps you a lot, because it is quite encouraging. The program is quite good, as long as you don't get caught up into I need to move on to the next level quickly. And if you just sort of stick with each step and move on when you're ready to move on. So I guess when I look back, I know there were some stages when I moved on to the next level. And it was a struggle to sort of stay at that level. Whereas there were other times when I'd spent so much time at a previous level as such. So I remember I spent a lot of time in, say, the week 3 and week 2, just bouncing back and forth, doing week 2 schedules in some weeks and doing a week 3 schedule, so that when I finally moved on to week 4, it was a breeze to do it. I didn't struggle to get to it, and that sort of probably emphasizes the point that I did spend a lot of time, and maybe I could have gone a bit faster. But at the same time, it just made it a lot easier to, just move through those gears quite comfortably.
I personally like a lot the way that you took it by trying to first make each week or each level of the program perfect. And I wouldn't say perfect, but making it as good as it can be before moving on to the next one. Because whatever you do, it always takes time. So the fact that you have that mindset from the start, I think is what has kept you running for so long and helped you make it a lifestyle choice and not just something that you set a New Year's resolution and by the end of February you stop. I think besides the catalyst that got you to start, I personally believe that this is the catalyst that helped you remain on the track that you are currently on.
That actually makes a lot of sense. I didn't, I probably just outright agree with you, because I wasn't looking at a particular destination. I wasn't in a hurry to get there. So it was like, just go with just stick to, this is what you have to do this week. Just make sure this week is great. And that sort of makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an important aspect of any part of any endeavor that we try to accomplish in our life. I think it's very relevant. So have you noticed any changes in your life outside of running that you would say you attribute to running from your life, what it was before and now?
Well, apart from a better level of fitness, there is one thing that I kind of noticed. I do get itchy if I end up skipping a run for a couple of days or so. Now there is that urge, like, okay, I've not been outside, I need to be out. It does help in some way. So that is definitely one thing I've noticed. But apart from that, I haven't noticed anything in particular as such. See, there are definitely knock-on effects of being fitter, but I'm trying to think of anything that I would particularly call out as such. So I'm not thinking of anything per se. Is there something that you might have noticed? I mean, we've known each other for quite a bit of time. Is there anything that's coming to your mind?
So I would say, for me personally, whenever I am not active or I'm not working out or I am unfit, I find myself feeling more tired, lethargic. I find myself lazing about a lot. I find myself just not wanting to do things, not feeling motivated. That discipline of mine doesn't apply to other parts of my life. And I've always said this, the major reason that I exercise or work out as much as I do is always been for the mental clarity rather than the physical. For me, it's never been about the trying to get the body or trying to, look aesthetic or whatever. It's always been about the reason that the mental clarity that I get when I work out. For example, like just recently, maybe a month back or 2 months back, I mean, when I came there and after I came back here, I don't think I was that active. I mean, I was not that active. I gained a lot of weight and my activity level had gone down. And I used to feel tired after coming back from work. And then I had to work on my edits or anything, and I would work on it and I would be drained.
Okay.
So for example, if I would work on an edit, then for the next 2 days, I don't think I would go back to an edit because I would just be mentally drained. And it's only 20 days back that I decided that I'm going to work out every day, and I'm on a kind of a challenge that for the last 20 days, I've been working out every single day. Some days I've been pushing it a lot. Some days I've been doing like a 300 rep workout where you do 100 bench presses, 100 deadlifts, 100 overhead presses. And besides that, I've also dialed in my nutrition, and I would say my productivity level has gone so high. Like for example, yesterday itself, I recorded, edited a video, posted it, then recorded, edited another shot, and then I'm also working on a long project, meaning long editing project, which is recording on a daily basis. So I recorded that, and at night I edited that, and then I went to sleep. Today I woke up. Today in the morning I worked on that edit again, and then I'm doing this podcast, and I'll probably at night feel like doing the editing of the podcast. It's like I don't even feel like wasting time. If I go and start wasting time, it just doesn't feel right. You just feel like, I want to do this.
It's like you're in the flow right now.
Yeah, I'm in the
It's
flow.
like
And I
you're
think
in the
it's
flow right now.
always been associated with whenever I decide to take my fitness seriously. I've always noticed that in my life. So for me personally, I've noticed the connection with fitness outside of fitness, the benefits. So I was wondering if you had anything similar that you noticed on those lines, or
No, I kind of get that. Then you've probably. So I'm just curious, like, do you feel that when you work out, you have more energy for other aspects of your life, other parts of the day?
yeah,
Because I
do.
sometimes find if I do a very vigorous workout, it probably drains me for the rest of the day. And I actually find that let's say, everything else suffers a little bit. So I kind of like to keep my workouts lighter because of that. And maybe stick to.
No, but I think also the fact is your workouts is more running based, and I think running overall just tends to deplete your glycogen sources because it's a oxidative muscle fibers that are burning, so it does deplete a lot of glycogen in your body. So I do notice, like, if I do something cardio related, if I run a lot, then I do feel a depletion of energy after that. But in terms of doing a strength training or a gym workout, I don't find that it affects me negatively in other aspects, because I would say in college, the time I used to work out the most was during my exam days, and we had exam holidays. I used to, after lunch, I used to spend about an hour or maybe 1.5 hours in the gym, and then come back, and then I would be able to study properly till night. Like, I found myself more energetic. And the days that I didn't work out in the gym during my study holidays, I used to find myself feeling sleepy at about 8, 9, 10, like really mentally exhausted. So I've noticed it makes a difference. But I think it's a difference in the type of workout we do.
So that's what it sounds like, because you're basically doing strength training workouts as opposed to running. So
more of mine is strength training, right?
Interesting. So I never thought about that, and I mean, I'm not too aware of it. So would you say that it's better or easier to, like, if you were constructing your workout program, would you include running in it, or is it probably better to maybe focus on just one or the other? Because sometimes I find it difficult to have a variety. The thing is, if you're starting something new and you're trying to do multiple new things, I feel like I'm not doing any of them well. But if I sometimes do maybe, so like when it came to running, I was just running. I didn't really incorporate any strength training into it. And now that I've got running down as such, I feel like I want to bring back strength training. And I'm just wondering is it something which you've thought about, or you've noticed, or you've experienced anything? Is it easier for people to maybe start off with one type of workout and then layer something in later, or is that a good approach, or should you just try to do it properly from the start, which is maybe do a strength training, then do some sort of cardio as well into your workout routine?
I think that answer varies for different people based on their needs and also based on what they prefer doing. So I've personally noticed, especially in my physiotherapy clients, the only type of exercise or the follow-up that they're going to do is the type that they enjoy. So if there's something that they don't like, no matter how much you tell them it's important for them, and that's the reason they are in the pain that they are currently in, once the pain is dealt with, they will not go forward to do it unless they actually like it. And I found that relevant even in workout. So the type of workout you do. So I would say it depends on the person, because you personally, I think you do enjoy running. And so for you to try to take a lot of your energy into strength training might not be ideal. Now, I'm not sure, but it just seems like that. Because I mean, you wanted to take up strength training a couple of times before we had this conversation, but you were never able to follow through. But with the running thing, you've been able to follow through. And many times I've said, I'm going to start running because I know the importance of cardio and I don't like running. So I want to do something that I don't like. So I say I'm going to start running, and then I do start running. But I'm never able to follow through and make it consistent. So I think it depends on the type of workouts you enjoy, and also it depends on the goals, whether you're trying to build muscle, lose fat, trying to just build up your endurance. All of those goals also play a role. But at the end of the day, an ideal program should involve cardio and strength training. Because one thing about strength training that's important to remember is muscle is the only age reversible organ. And once you
I think you
cross
I think you need to repeat that. Whoa, that sounded heavy. Like, what do you mean?
I have been a fan of podcasts for years now, and now having my own podcast is a dream come true. If you enjoy podcasts like me and you've always wanted to go and have a conversation on a podcast, then this is your opportunity, because I want to invite you join me on this podcast. If you have a story to tell, if you have a viewpoint to share, if you have anything that you would love having a conversation on this podcast about, then please do hit me up on my Instagram at the rate of McMarsho, and let's get you on this show. My Instagram link will be in the description. And back to this episode. Muscle is the only age reversible organ. So with age, all our organs tend to weaken, or the functionality tends to decrease. That goes for muscle as well. And the other organs, there isn't anything that you can do majorly to influence the degradation or the slowing down as much as you can do for your muscle. If you start strength training, your muscle is going to start growing and responding to that strength training. And overall, you're going to build muscle, and increase in muscle also has many other effects on your body, which kind of decreases your biological age, not in the literal sense, but it makes you basically function younger at a younger level, kind of a thing. So that's one thing that I've heard this a line said by a nutritionist, a famous nutritionist here, when he was giving a talk. And that was the first thing he started his talk with, was saying that muscle is the only age reversible organ. And yesterday I was watching a podcast, some guy, some scientist who was talking about past 50 years, it's very tough to build muscle. So before that point, you have to try to build as much muscle as you can, because it becomes harder as you become older, because your testosterone levels, you go down, all of those things.
That makes sense, actually.
And muscle is an important part of maintaining good health. So before that, you try to build as much muscle as you can.
Okay.
And cardio is not the best way to lose fat. Strength training will actually help you lose fat better than cardio. But at the same time, cardio is important for your cardiovascular health, because you see so many of these bodybuilders, many of them are using steroids, but you see all of them, they're just working strength training, and then their heart fails because their heart is not able to withstand all that force. So cardio is an important part of health. So I would say it's a balance is always the best form, but again, it's dependent on yourself. But it's always good to have a balance to some extent, at least.
That's interesting now you brought that up, because I've been thinking about incorporating some strength training and actually some high intensity activity as well. So what I've been thinking of doing is maybe cutting back a bit on running and kind of trying to incorporate sprinting instead in the same time. So what I've been doing is maybe completing a 5K, but more like a walk and sprinting sort of 5K. Maybe I won't get to a 5K, maybe probably be around 3.5 or 4K, and kind of do sprints during that time and cover the same circuit that I normally do. So I actually did one of those last week, and even yesterday I sort of did the same thing, but again on a much shorter route, because I wasn't my energy levels were lower yesterday. So
Got that.
I'm thinking that this seems like a different way to go, and I was just wondering, what do you think of maybe using sprints like this and then bringing in maybe say weight training on another day?
It does involve more muscular activity that is not aerobic, but at the end of it, sprint is focused on building up your cardiovascular strength, kind of pushing your heart to a high heart rate, trying to push the limits. So it might actually be a good way for you to leeway into strength training. So you can leeway from running to sprinting, and then sprinting to adding a bit of strength training. It might be a good bridge to join the two. So in that way, yeah, I think it would be beneficial. And sprinting also would help you burn a lot more targeted fat, but also it would end up burning muscle if you're not maintaining a diet with a high amount of protein and stuff like that.
Okay.
But as long as your protein contents are met and your diet is not restricted too much, overall you should be effectively burning a bit of fat as well, because your body would eventually at some point start going into ketosis, which is the burning down of fat.
Interesting. So what you're saying is like do a bit more sprinting. Maybe that's going to be the bridge into strength training, but make sure I get my diet right, because I need to keep more protein in it.
Yeah. Diet is everything. No matter how much.
Isn't there
I think for me the major struggle has been diet throughout my entire journey, and it's like the last 20 days that I won this journey challenge, that I finally started to dial in my diet and actually track my calories, track my macros, that I feel like it's making a difference.
I think diet is always a thing. Isn't there some saying that I seem to recall, you can't outrun a poor diet or something on those lines? Right?
Yeah, you can't outrun a poor diet.
Or you can't outtrain. Probably there are variants of it. So it's like
yeah.
That's actually interesting, right? Because the end result of like maybe so many things in life, the end result is it's not just one thing. You've got to make sure that you're probably doing enough on various different levels and various different levers rather.
Yeah.
So because any one of those could pull you down. So like, okay, I mean, you have a great, like say, a running workout, but you go out and then like eat like crazy and eat all the wrong stuff, you're not going to see the results. So you got to kind of at least be operating at a bare minimum on those levers, and then maybe you can flex on other ones and you'll get the desired result. But you can't neglect anything completely. You gotta kind of do the minimum on all of those bits.
Yeah, true. That's true. I think going a little bit away from this topic that we are having, I think I would like to know more about the preparation, the build up, and the experience of running the half marathon that you did. Give us a bit more detail into that whole experience, because running, the maximum I've ran a marathon is 10K, and I've always wanted to go to that half marathon, full marathon, but I've never actually, because I don't like running, but I've never got to that point. So to me, it's very intriguing and interesting to know the story and the experience.
Okay, so let me set the scene for you.
Before I get back into this episode, I have a small request. If you're enjoying this conversation and would like more of these type conversations that we have on the podcast, then please do hit the subscribe button, because that helps supporting the podcast and helping the podcast reach more people. So please do hit the subscribe button if you're enjoying this, and let's get back to the episode.
So let me set the scene for you. So this is somewhere around February of this year. Okay, so it's been, say, almost 7 or 8 months I've been regularly doing 5Ks as my training run. So you could say I'm probably doing 3 5Ks a week, between 2 and 3 5Ks a week. Okay, and not struggling hard with it. So, but I've not really upped my distance. Probably the max distance I've done at this stage is maybe 6.5 kilometers. So I'm not really, so I'm kind of steady with that. Out of the blue, I get this email from a charity I support called Guide Dogs, and they say that they've got places in the London Landmarks Half Marathon, which is a marathon organized by another charity, and it's kind of like a festive sort of event. It's a fun run event, and most people who run in it are supporting some charity or the other. So they asked like, we've got some spaces, would you like to take part? And I thought, okay, because it seemed like I didn't really, after I had ticked the box of the 5K, I didn't really think that 10K was my next goal, because like I said, I didn't really feel I was a runner. I was just doing this for this whole process. So okay, And I don't know why I went for it. Sometimes I just like to, latch on to serendipitous things and just inject a little bit of variability into my life. So this was something which was new. It was a charity I support. So I just said, okay, let's go for it. And yes, I know 2 months is not enough time to train for a half marathon. And when I looked, and so the first
Just
thing,
to be clear, what is a half marathon distance? In case
okay, so
anybody does
half
not know.
marathon is around 21 kilometers. So literally half of the 42 that a full marathon is. So it's 21 kilometers. So I've never done that distance before, obviously.
So you had only a 2 months period between the time you got the email and the run.
Yes, so the marathon was
that's a short time.
planned for, it was going to take place in the first week of April, and we were somewhere in February. And when I knew it was probably less time, you just had a gut feel, yes, it was. And then when I started doing my research, I was like, all the plans online are like, okay, so in week 8, or working 8 weeks back from your marathon, working like, not week 8, we working like 16 weeks back from your marathon, you need to start doing this. So by week 8, you need to be doing this distance. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm nowhere there. So let's just see what I can do. So I started running a bit more, because obviously, so now 5K for me at that time would have been around the 45-minute mark. I'm just doing easy runs, so I probably get it done in about 45 to 50 minutes. So I obviously had to drop that by quite a bit, and I have to run for much longer. Because at the pace that I'm going, a half marathon is going to take a good 2.5 hours to 3 hours, so which is long. And so I was like, okay, now that I have a distance to aim for and I know what I'm trying to do, I was just looking at the plans online, and I wasn't ready for any of them. Like obviously my preparation wasn't there. So I just thought that the main thing I need to do is I need to be able to finish. So in order to do that, I have to just keep increasing my distance. Now I don't have much time. So my first aim was to start maybe just running a bit longer. So I was trying to get, now I think I had done my max was about 6.5K. So I was now starting to push it to like, okay, let's try to do 7, let's try to do 7.5, just go in increments of 500 meters each, every second or third run, which I know is too fast, but like there is a date set in stone, right? If I'm going to show up for this, I have to do it. And so at the end of it, I think I managed to do 2 10Ks before the 2 10K training runs before the actual half marathon. So I was at least feeling a little bit better that, okay, I've done 10K, and I was hoping that this would translate into, I should be able to do another 10K, because if I could do 2
So in your entire training, you never actually got close to 21K?
Oh, far from it. I even the 10Ks, it was more like I did my 5K route twice, if that makes sense, with a small break in between, like a couple of, I took a break and then was feeling energized, so I went and did another one. So it was probably like I did 10K that day, and with maybe just like a 2 or 3 minute break in between. So I thought like, okay,
understood, I
can kind of do this distance. So in my mind, I was thinking like, okay, just relax. I'll just break it down, and I'll just think of it as I just have to run 4 or 5Ks. I mean, yeah, I do that in a week, so maybe I'll do it in the same day. How hard can it be? Yeah, it did work out that way. So let's say on the day of the half marathon, so I show up there and I start off, and the first thing that kind of comes to my mind is that it was a little easier than in training, because at least it's set up on a proper route. I mean, it's mostly tarmac.
Okay.
So, and
understood.
You're not dealing with, say, because the route is sort of cordoned off, you're not dealing with maybe, people walking past, you got to stop, you got to turn. Nor is it like, I just run around where I live. And so it's a mix of, there's a bit of grassy areas, there's walking tracks, there's cycling tracks, there's a small bridge. So it's a very varied terrain, and so you're constantly turning, you're constantly kind of pausing for a second, you got to dodge maybe a dog walker. So it was actually easier being in the while running in the half marathon, and I everything was going smoothly. I got my first 5K down, and like they have markers, and I had kept my phone with me, so I was kind of aware of the time, and I did the next 5K as well. So I completed 10K, and my pace was pretty good. I did the first 5K in about 36 minutes, and then my next 5K. So I completed my 10K by around the 1 hour 12 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around 1 hour 12. And I was going pretty good, and I thought everything was fine. And then around the 11.5 kilometer mark, boom, I get hit with cramps in my right calf, and it was terrible. So couldn't figure out what had to be done. Tried a bit of stretches, and I'm sure you remember I called you up and asked you what to do.
Yeah, you called me also.
I remember you telling me grab some electrolytes. So I actually stopped at a pub and asked them for salt and downed a glass of salty water, and the guys were very amused as to what was happening. And they asked me if I wanted anything else, but it was fine. Like, I'm getting advice from my brother-in-law who's a physio, so he knows exactly what I should do. And the thing was, I was able to kind of stretch it out and maybe cover another kilometer. Also, I think I did manage to get to the 12.5, 13 mark, but then the catches were just getting too frequent. I probably had stopped at least 3 or 4 times by then, and so at that stage I knew that if I continue running, it's just not working, right? It's the muscle is cramping, and then I'm just staggering off to the side every time and trying to stretch it out. So I realized that if I had to finish, and I was going to finish, so if I had to finish, I'd have to walk the rest. So I decided to walk, and it was pretty okay walking. I mean, it wasn't really difficult to do. I wasn't very tired while I was in the midst of doing it. So I walked the rest. So I'm probably at 13 kilometer mark. So I've got another 8 to go. It wasn't fun walking that long, because obviously you're going much slower than you'd want to be going. So if I ran my first 10K in say about an hour, I took almost 2 hours for the next bit, for the next 10K. Yeah, and that sucked. And I finished it, and I did tests to see that, okay, maybe it's okay now. Let me try running. But as soon as I maybe took say 20 meters, it would cramp up again. So running was just not an option. If I had to finish, I had to walk, and that was actually very frustrating. I mean, when I look back at that, because there were a lot of people. Yeah, you can imagine, right? Because there were a lot of people who were taking breaks, but then they would run again. And here I'm just like plodding away, walking. But this is a run. It just didn't sit right. And I'd say the worst part was when I got to the finish line, and I mean, I got to kind of set the scene of how this half marathon is. It's like a fun day for a lot of people out there. So you have loads of crowds, everyone's cheering. I mean, I probably heard my name being called out for so many times in a particular day. I don't think I've heard that this often in like years. Like random strangers cheering you on. Let's say like, come on, Nigel, let's go. So it was a great sort of fun day. And so I'm entering the finish line now, which is like festooned. It's like proper. You got a lot of people, and there's somebody cheering you on. You got like a loudspeaker and some commentary going on. And I'm walking away. Down the line, and I want to run, but I know it's probably worse if I start like take a few strides and then hobble off again. So I'm just like, so I crossed the finish line walking over it, much as I wanted to run, and it did feel a little weird, but I was like, okay, like I'm finishing, so that's all that.
But
matters.
You still finished, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you set out the goal to finish, and no matter what, you had to finish it. So you did, in a way, accomplish your goal. Would you have any advice you would give to somebody that wants to start fitness or improve their life or take on any challenge that they are finding might be too hard for them, that it's scaring them so much to the point of inaction, especially with the new year coming now and people are going to start making their resolutions? A way to be able to follow through with your resolution and also make it a part of your lifestyle?
If you're looking to do something which is going to be a habit. I think it just becomes a lot easier if you approach it with the mindset that this is a lifelong change that I'm making. So let me, not get obsessed with making progress in every week, making visible progress in every week, but rather just focus on making sure you show up and just do what needs to be done for that week.